And we are live. Woo! Welcome, everyone, to another Basement Radio Arcade podcast rant. Today, we're going to be talking about possible next-generation console delays and the current state and future of PlayStation. There was a great Q&A with Herman Hulst of Sony Worldwide. Is it Worldwide Entertainment, Bad Bit? I always get those confused.
Sony Interactive Entertainment.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So, Sony Interactive Entertainment. On that note, I am joined by a special guest, Mr. Badbit. Mr. Badbit, what is going on, dude? Great to have you back on BRAP. We had the pleasure of doing Crossfire this past Friday, and it truly was Crossfire.
That was something else. I've never been on a podcast that chaotic, but that interesting. That was fantastic. A lot learned as well.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I the first time, I'm not gonna lie, first time I went on that show, because it's a different format than what I'm used to with rap, right? Because it really is like Crossfire. I wasn't used to like and it's done in a respectful way, by the way. I just want to mention that. Like a lot of people, a lot of people may say or think that these people don't like each other because they're arguing. That's not the case. Like we all admire each other and have respect for each other. We just have different opinions, and it's okay to voice a difference of opinions. Like there's nothing wrong with that, right?
What? Nah, we gotta hate each other, dude. We gotta listen. If we have a different opinion, we need to fight. But no, you're right.
Yeah, right.
It's all in jest. It's all in good entertainment and all that jazz. So. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the first time I went on, I was kind of like, whoa, this really is Crossfire. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little okay, what do I say here? Like, and then I think a couple times into my guessing on Crossfire, I just, I got used to.
Enough about Crossfire, because it's me, Mr. Badbit from Badbit Games. We're talking about all game news and reviews and the Trophy Room PlayStation podcast, which you were on, 2 weeks ago, right?
Yes, I was. That's right. Yeah. So,
what a crazy turn of events the past few weeks have been, man. Where like 2 weeks ago feels like 2 months.
A lot has changed, and we'll get into that. But Babbitt, I just want to say though, with regards to Crossfire, it was great seeing you on there, man. It was always a pleasure podcasting with you, and I thought of you when you were on that show. I was like, I got to get him back on because I had this idea of doing this rant, and I thought, what better of a guest to have than Mr. Babbitt himself?
Thank you.
Again, host of the Trophy Room podcast, which you guys should definitely check out. So, a lot's changed, man. Right? Like a lot's changed since I was on your show. Like literally.
Like we were gonna get new consoles this year, apparently.
Yeah, and at that point, I was getting ready to go to E3, and that's not happening, right?
Oh my God! Right. Oh God, yeah, it's been a hot minute.
Yeah, but I want to say something real quick because we had so this kind of goes back to a lot. We can't say the name of the virus per se. Mm-hmm. We'll just refer to it as the virus, right?
Yeah, or down with the sickness, or right? That's what I've been doing.
Down with
have fun with it. Down with the sickness.
Oh yes, it's funny, that song, right? That's exactly. I forget the name.
That's what I've been doing now. It's just like we gotta have a little fun with it, gotta have a little lightheartedness, or else what? YouTube takes everything from you,
Yeah, they will, unfortunately. But on that note, I got to say something. There's one thing that I've learned in my 43 years of it, my young 43 years of living on planet Earth.
Yeah.
That typically when shit hits the fan, whether it's within an organization, company, government, you really get to see who the true leaders are. And there's difference between leaders and managers. And I've seen this in my line of work. And I don't want to, I know people say you shouldn't politicize a pandemic, but this isn't really as much a politicizing the pandemic as much as an observation of the lack of leadership that we're seeing in the Oval Office. And I got to be honest with you, and don't vote for this guy again. Look, like this experiment is not working, guys. I understand we wanted to disrupt the system.
Right.
But when you put somebody in who isn't qualified to do the job, this is what you get.
Yeah.
right?
It's yeah. So it's funny because like before we were talking before the show started. That's why we're late. My bad, guys. But we were like, I don't know. Should we start the show this way? What do we do here? But yeah, man, it's been wild and crazy to see just the lack of anything out of these people, and it's insane. One of the only highlights I could say out of the whole like the speech he gave was someone clipped out a portion of where it's just him breathing, going for 2 minutes straight, and it was the most hilarious thing I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, no, don't vote for this guy. He's a piece of shit. But you know what, dude?
Look,
It is what it is.
and I said to you,
And if
before,
you do, whatever, I don't care.
if you do, that's fine. Like, I'm not going to disparage anyone for whatever their political affiliations are. I don't like. That's not. I'm not addressing that. It's not a personal attack on you. This is my opinion, my view of the situation. I said this to you before you went live, Bad Bit. I'm a Republican.
Yeah.
I could tell you.
I'm a Democrat. I have to hate you, dude.
Yeah, right. We have to hate each other, right? No, we don't hate each other. We
nice.
Look, we have different. We may have different political views. Bad Bit. Some of the views we have, we may agree on certain things. We may disagree, but that's okay. That's normal. That is normal. In the world, no one agrees 100%. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But I will say this.
Go for it.
Ronald Reagan's probably rolling around in his grave right now, thinking. This guy totally shits on the face of the conservative movement, by the way. And I'm not going to give you examples of why, because that's another brap rant. But I will say this. In this pandemic, when somebody comes out and tells the American people, quote, we have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China, and we have it under control. It's going to be just fine. That's not what you say in the face of a pandemic. Sir, you are not a scientist. You don't know what's coming. You refer to the experts. That's what a leader does. A leader admits to themselves, you know what? I'm leading, but I am not the subject matter expert. I need to listen to the people that are the SMEs that know what is going on. And I need to project that message, in this instance, the American people who are your clients per se. I need to project the message to my clients about what is potentially coming, rather than saying everything's going to be okay. Because one, you didn't have any data to back that up. Where is that coming from? And it's okay to be, to be transparent. Leaders are transparent.
Yeah. Enrique for the White House 2020. Let's make this happen, everybody. Wrap 2020. Let's get that in the chat. But no, you're totally right. And what we're going to be talking about today with the PS5 and Xbox Series X possibly being delayed. I think Xbox said, hey, listen, this is just a prediction from an analyst, but the way things are looking right now, from ever since this has happened, I'm not trying to dive into like CNN or Fox News or MSNBC to get scared shitless. I've been trying to look at what the experts are saying. There's a lot of awesome interviews out there with awesome, amazing scientists that know what the hell they're talking about. And so from what I've understood from this thing that's going on right now is it is definitely affecting production worldwide. It's definitely, we've seen it in China right now where they quarantined everybody for about 2 weeks. And I mean their whole entire population, because that's what you can do when you're that powerful of a dictatorship. And they quarantined everybody for 2 weeks. They just released everybody out, continue living your lives. And all of a sudden it's back. It's already, there was one case a few days ago, then there was 10 cases. Now it's back up to 22 cases in China. So we're seeing something truly troubling, truly worrisome. Don't let it, rule your life or let it fear you or, whatever the case may be. But at the same exact time, guys, don't go out there, hoard toilet paper, go out to clubs, be out in huge groups of people. This is a very safe space.
You know
right
what?
Now, be
in
chat rooms with us, guys.
Yeah, you know what? Somebody in the chat room says, so the other option is we should vote for Biden. Here's the issue. We're not talking about Biden as a presidential candidate here. And this is the issue with this conversation. As soon as you start offering criticism about the current administration or president, people automatically deflect and go to, well, what about Biden? He's old. He's forgetful. No, he's not. You know, he's not the fucking president right now.
Also, the president said he would bang his daughter if it wasn't his daughter. So let's just get that one right on track. So, like,
you know, and let me tell you something else about poor leadership. When you're the leader, when you are an effective leader of a company, of a government, you don't assign blame to previous leadership. You don't assign blame to the previous administration. You are in charge now. You own it. You own it because now you can make changes. You're in a position of power where you can make changes. Yeah. But leaders blame people. Leaders scapegoat. And what do we see all the time with this president? Insulting people on Twitter, calling people fake media, you know, disparaging people, calling the names. That is not behavior of a leader. Leaders do not make excuses. They hold themselves accountable. They're transparent and they take swift action. And they work with their team. They take the advice from the people that surround them. They take advice from the people that are the experts. And he doesn't do that.
I would like to say shout out to Born Distracted in the chat saying, well, his daughter is attractive. That's
I mean, that's besides the point, Born Distracted.
Yeah. No, but I get it, man. It's kind of like in disarray. And right now I think we're at the time where we're looking to someone to lead and to guide us. And that there's right now, at this moment, no one. And that's sad, you know? And a lot of people like, you know, hang on to conspiracies and what ifs because those are a lot more attractive because you can explain that to yourself. That makes sense to you, and there's a comfort in knowing that. But like I saw someone in the chat going, like, Biden is plant. I don't know if Biden's a plant. I don't think he is. I think he's a human just like the rest of us. I don't think this Plants vs. Zombies. I'm kidding you. I know what you say, but you're wrong. But like, yeah, it's just, gang, my suggestion for everyone is, since there is no leader leading us, be that leader. That's what I've always tried to kind of hang by. You know, again, I've self-quarantined myself because, you know, my dad's a 61-year-old asthmatic. So I don't want to up the chances of him to get it. I even shaved my beard, and it's so cold. It is so cold without a beard. It is literally awful, and I hate it so very much. But I did it because, hey, you have to do it. And at the same exact time, I'm scared. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a little freaked out. Again, walked into my local ShopRite, my supermarket. There's no toilet paper. What if we run out? What if I can't wipe my bum? But I don't panic. Instead, I gotta have some type of layer of strength. I can't show that I'm a little freaked out to my brother, my mother, my sister-in-law, my dad, who are right here with us. So like, you gotta be strong for people. You gotta be strong for each other. You have to believe in other people. You know. Again, this situation, it's a little nuts right now, man.
Yeah, and I want to say this too. You know, when you're the leader, you're the president of the most powerful country, wealthiest country in the world. Yeah, people look up to you, and I don't know if this person understands the immense responsibility that he has and the weight that his words carry.
Oh, absolutely not. Remember, he made fun of a disabled person, but I do want to say, Luke Lord in the chat has a very good point. We could have voted for Reggie if he hadn't signed on with GameStop.
Yes.
I say this, Reginator 2020.
Reginator 2020.
His body's ready. We see that he's part cyborg. Could work out for us.
Yeah. I just want to, and I want to tie this up with a bow real quick and just quote another comment by our current president who said, looks like by April, you know, in theory, when it gets a little warmer, it miraculously goes away.
No, that's not true. That won't happen.
I know it's not true, but this is that lack of leadership that I'm talking about. You don't say those things to the American people because it gives them a false sense of reality of what's really coming and what to expect. You manage the expectations of your citizens, of your clients, whatever the case is. I say clients, I always relate this back to business because of the line of work that I'm in. But I'm telling you, the leadership thing here is just not good, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. And I'll leave it at this as well. Barack, come back. No, this isn't leaving in a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 8 months. This is going to be with us for a very long time. This is a very much a change in lifestyle. This is very much 2020 is on hold. And if we think for a second that, oh, in 2 weeks, all of this is going to be over, it definitely isn't. It is only going to get worse. Shout out to who's the prime minister of the UK? I forget his name. Boris Johnson.
Boris Johnson,
who straight up said, "Gang, I'm gonna level with you." Paraphrasing now. You're gonna lose loved ones. This is gonna happen, and that's where we're gonna talk about like consoles and whatnot. But like, understand how real that is. That 20% of the world's population is and could be totally wiped out. So like, that's not me being fear mongering. That is just what's happening right now. And it's crazy. And like, I'll wrap it up with two bows at the end of this. We're seeing entire countries close down, France, Italy. But at the end of the day, the beautiful thing is you're seeing communities come together in beautiful ways. Like Italy right now, people are out on their apartment balconies and they're all singing traditional Italian songs. I saw like someone posted online, there's a neighborhood somewhere, I don't know, but they're singing "Bitch Better Have My Money" by Rihanna. The whole community.
My gosh.
That is freaking awesome. And I know Eddie T and Boris is a dumb idiot, but like that is the reality of it. But like the communities that are getting together, strangers helping each other, that's what we should be focusing on it, and focus on what's the real thing happening here. So
yeah. Well, I want to transition to the first topic because of the pandemic. And look, I've heard some rumblings that there are obviously contingencies in place in the event that they can't, they need to push back production of the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. And this actually it's interesting, as I was thinking about this the other night. Industry analysts, DFC Intelligence, I don't know how many people are aware of them, but I've actually been following DFC probably for about 18 years now. They've been around for about 25 years. They came out and recently had an article or reported that they do believe potentially that the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X have a strong likelihood. Well, actually, they say that either one or both systems will not make a 2020 launch.
Yeah.
They're saying that if the systems do launch, supplies will likely be constrained. Initial pricing could be higher than expected. Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Badbit, what are your thoughts, man? Do you think that this is going to happen? Because they are saying if the pandemic situation clears up, right, in a few weeks, the ability to manufacture and release a high-end new game system has already been severely impacted because of the delays. I mean, people were there's a news article going around that shows, I guess, a Google Earth image of China, and they're like, miraculously all the smog has cleared up, and that's because manufacturing has ceased in China. And China's a big manufacturing belly for the globe. They're the ones that put together and assemble PlayStation 5, or the PlayStation and Xbox consoles.
So this is definitely a concern, and anybody who's saying that like, oh, it's 100% these consoles are coming out in 2020, there's multiple factors into that equation that come into play here. So let's first talk about manufacturing, right? And you can cut me off whenever time when I'm on a rant here. First and foremost, we think of Microsoft and Sony. We have these misconceptions that they own factories in these countries, that all the parts are theirs and made. That is not true. Most of these parts that come from these factories, they're different parts. So like, let me explain it better. The Microsoft Xbox One X, that Blu-ray disc inside of that machine is either an LG Blu-ray or it's a Sony Blu-ray drive, ironically enough. So it's pretty much when you're building a console, you're putting Lego pieces together made by different manufacturers in which you've had and made multiple deals with. So they get assembled in these factories like Foxconn, which are just companies focused on manufacturing these devices, putting them together. And there's multiple places around the world that do it. It's not just Foxconn, but the majority is in China. It's also in Indochina, in places like Vietnam, Bangladesh, I believe, as well, and then Indonesia as well, where you have all these different plants that do different things together. So when you take a look at the manufacturing side of just tech in general, those plants, people live there. They're almost quarantined in those plants as well for various very also shady reasons, and they're living together in these really cramped spaces, and all it takes is one person getting sick and that whole entire factory closes down. And that's the thing that I don't think a lot of people are are putting together right now is what I stated earlier. So, China quarantined its entire population for 2 weeks. They thought they had it contained. They let their, or maybe just as a test, they let their community out in the open, live their lives, and it is spreading again. So it's not crazy to think that this is a possibility just on this one factor alone, on the manufacturing side, that it can halt production of these consoles till 2021. Is it early 2021? Well, we'll talk about that in a sec, but that's my thoughts on the first point, Brad, on just manufacturing side.
Okay. I think I think this really depends on what happens, right? I know they're saying that I think in certain parts of Asia, the virus is kind of leveled off in terms of new cases.
Yeah.
But, again, I mean, without any kind of vaccination, who's to say that this thing couldn't erupt again, right?
Absolutely.
And so, I think that there's going to be a level of, in my opinion, I think they're going to be a little more cautious instead of saying, okay, it's leveled off, full steam ahead, right? I don't see that happening because of the risk associated with that, right? Yeah. I think if it is, I think if it's a situation where they can't procure enough parts, if they can't get enough people into manufacture. I could see this being pushed back to early 2021, right? Maybe March of 2021, of 2021.
And that's one thing. Again, Xbot saying this conversation might be a little premature. It may be, but that's what this is right now. Is a what if scenario. A lot of this could be premature. It could be exactly 100% on the money. That's happening right now. To just take your point here, Xbot, South Korea's numbers are leveling off at the moment. That's awesome to hear. First and foremost, they also have an insane way of how to quarantine people. That is something we should be considering here in the States, which is kind of my second point here. As of what we've seen right now, we talked about lack of leadership, blah, blah, blah. We are following in the same footsteps that a country like Italy is currently having, where, and I'm, again, not to scare people, this is just the facts right now, is that they're at capacity when it comes to patients, when it comes to the spread of this virus being so severe that not only did they close down the hospital, but they're also choosing who lives and who dies by a flip of the coin. That's how over encumbered they are. People in the hospital people are in the hospital working on patients, and those nurses, those doctors have it. That's how bad things are. So the other big situation here is, how do we contain it here in the West, right? So like China has it easy; they could do it pretty well because they're a dictatorship and those people don't have free will. South Korea is able to do it well because they're a much smaller country. They have an ins- an amazing infrastructure and medical infrastructure as well that I'm very jealous of. And a concise leadership as well, and people just following through on that, not questioning if everything's a goddamn conspiracy because sometimes it's just black and white. Here in the States, though, we have that, right? We just had someone say that Biden's a plant. Like that shit has people saying, like, I know some people are like, I'm not going to let this thing run my life. I'm going to the club. And I'm like, you're an idiot, but fine, go ahead, do it. That's the other thing is, how long is this thing going to spread here and in Europe as well? Because if it spreads here, how do you get people excited for a new console? How do you get people to buy a new console if they're too busy buying toilet paper? If let's just say the economy keeps tanking, what happens when people lose their jobs and bam, they can't afford a console anymore? They got bigger shit to deal with.
You know? Yeah, Xbox like, what if Spider-Man kept his black suit? Xbox. This is actually based on this conversation is based on a report by DFC Intelligence, which is an industry analyst. They're actually basing this scenario off what they're hearing in terms of manufacturing constraints in China. Yep. So that's why we're having this conversation. It isn't like we're pulling it out of our ass and saying, "Hey, what if the consoles get delayed till like 2022?" Right? I mean, that's not. Yeah. I mean, this is based off industry analyst DFC Intelligence, and you can look it up on Google. Anyone, you can Google the article where DFC Intelligence talks about the impact. They're saying that strong likelihood on both systems will not make a 2020 launch, but they're saying if the systems do launch, supply likely will be constrained. Initial price could be higher than expected. They're saying currently the economy is in an unprecedented state of uncertainty. Even if the situation clears up in a few weeks, the ability to manufacture and release a high-end new game system has already been severely impacted, and that's, but there is a plus side to this. They're also saying the good news is that consumer demand is likely to be stronger than ever. Demand will far exceed supply, and long term, that could increase overall sales. In addition, the abundance of government and public caution should help assure this is a comparatively short-term crisis. Both PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X were released to record consumer demand. The challenge Sony and Microsoft face is making sure they release systems that meet expectations. Given the current situation, waiting to make sure they get the initial product right is the most prudent choice. So, again, who knows? We obviously we don't know, but I think it's worth the conversation, giving what's currently going on right now with this pandemic. I mean, it's obviously having an economic impact. We saw impact to the stock market earlier this week. It did rebound. My stocks have taken a severe hit. Some have rebounded, others haven't. But it is going to impact us from an economic standpoint. And to your point, Bad Bit, Maryland, the state I live in, has closed all the public school systems for the next 2 weeks. Dr. Anthony, I think, I don't know pronounce it, Fauci, I think it is, who's heading up the the coronavirus task force for the administration. He's saying don't rule out supporting temporary national lockdown to combat the corona. I almost said it, to combat this virus.
The sickness,
and so the sickness, right? And so I'm telling you guys, this is. Don't be surprised if they're like, you know what, people, stay indoors. Don't go to bars. Don't go to don't go to restaurants. I mean,
we're even seeing in my third and final thing here is we're seeing entertainment shift as well. First off, shout out to Disney dropping Rise of Skywalker and Frozen 2. And it's come to the point now as well where we're getting so bad as a society, or maybe it's just the quarantine getting to me, where I'm like, man, I miss people bitching about Star Wars and how awful it is now or whatever.
Oh, I'll bitch with you about that, Bad Bit.
All right, good, thank God,
because I saw it. I got to tell you what, man,
I loved it.
I didn't. I loved certain parts of it, but I just felt like the pacing seemed off for me.
Oh yeah, it's really fast.
It
should have been in 2 parts. Like, that movie's definitely flawed. It definitely should have been a 2-parter.
It should have been fleshed out better.
But man, I had fun. And that's what
I
Star Wars
mean,
is.
I guess for me,
Say it,
the
say it. Don't worry.
the I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but I'll say that obviously nostalgia is a hell of a drug.
Yeah, it
So
is.
there's that nostalgia piece. There's that 6-year-old Enrique or who first saw Star Wars, the inner child, that connection to the
Yeah.
franchise and the ending and everything, and that hit home for me, right?
Yep.
But I gotta say though,
Say it.
it
Say
it was my least of the new trilogy, favorite of the new trilogy, my least
it.
favorite.
Mine's is still The Last Jedi because my major thing with that, I love this derail. I'm enjoying it so much. Uh is that and my main problem is it happens immediately after Force Awakens. So like this whole conflict kind of just seems like a bad weekend rather than like this war that's like erupting the galaxy. It's like, oh no, not actually. It's kind of like in between these. That's my
Yeah,
only big thing that I can't get wrap my head around. But like dropping things like Frozen 2 as well. Like I like the original Frozen. I don't have kids, so like I listened to that one song once and I was like, oh, this is nice. So like I'm pumped to watch Frozen 2. That's cool.
yeah.
Give me Harley Quinn early. I'd love to see that. At home, just like chilling out,
I
relaxing.
tell you what I would like to see though, and I thought was
Yeah,
really
tell me.
interesting about the last Star Wars movie. Oh, I just had an achievement pop up. Because my
Oh
son's
shit!
playing.
Achievement unlocked.
Yeah, because my son's playing Xbox right now.
Make a
Um,
political statement on YouTube channel. That's what it
yeah,
is.
right.
It's like let's get political. That's the one. Yeah.
So I'll say this: there is something fascinating about the Sith.
Yeah.
I would like to see Disney explore the roots of the Sith and that culture, if you will, because I think that there's something there. I know Star Wars, Night of the Old Republic, kind of went down that road a little bit.
Yeah.
With kind of where you went to a Sith planet.
Yeah.
Um,
Excellent. Yeah.
I want to see I want to see Disney kind of flesh out the Sith more.
Mhm.
Because there's a lot there. There's definitely a lot there, but I
That's
don't want
what.
to. I don't want to spend. I don't want
Yeah,
to
but like
spoil it.
one more
But go ahead,
second,
man.
here's what I would like. I would like a series or a comic book that kind of puts all the acolytes that we saw in all of a sudden Rise of Skywalker in the prequels. We saw them planted
Mm,
a little bit in Rogue One, which I thought was dope as hell. But like a little bit more of that, that would be really great. And Neek Cum, I'm sorry, I just spoiled. This is a rated A18 stream now, but he said something really great, dude. They're all bad. Even the originals are dumb. That's right. Star Wars is dumb, but it's fun. It's literally Fast and the Furious for nerds. That's why I like Star
yeah,
Wars.
yeah.
All
No, it
right,
is, and I will say this:
physics out the door.
the one thing I liked about this trilogy, though, was that based on some of the books that I read, they took the Force to another level, which we knew
Yeah,
that it could go, but wasn't really
yeah.
showed in the original trilogy. If that makes sense.
No, it absolutely makes sense. Yeah, that's why I like the new one so much. Like you could do so much crazy shit with your hands that
Yeah,
the teenage me would only dream of. Like
I
you
know, right?
stop a lightsaber bolt coming at you or a laser bolt coming at you. Stop a lightsaber with your hand. Connect people's consciousness. That's crazy. That's dope. But back onto these consoles, like you're seeing all of these like entertainment pieces being delayed. Like we saw 007 get delayed, we saw Mulan obviously get delayed. We're seeing all these movies getting delayed, even Fast and the Furious, speaking of which, all the way to April 2021. So like a lot of these movies are getting delayed because they want people in those seats. So again, do you hold off on these consoles to make sure that people have the wampum to go and purchase them? Who knows?
Well,
That
that's an
that
interesting
makes a
point.
little sense.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you bring up because we know there's obviously people that are hourly wage earners, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they're laid off right now. They're not getting any kind of compensation.
Yep.
Maybe they qualify for unemployment. I don't know.
Real talk. Yeah, you do sort of kind of after 2 weeks, but it really does depend. That's the thing that really
Okay.
scares me is like maybe instead of giving $1.5 trillion out of the blue, just literally out of thin air, maybe you give some to people that are, like waitresses, waiters, part-time staff, people that are on minimum wage. Maybe give them some relief, but yeah. Sorry, I
Yeah.
cut you off.
No, and because I mean, really, I mean, you think about, there's people out there that live paycheck to paycheck, and so,
Yeah.
and some of these individuals may be console gamers, right? So what's the impact to them long term? Are they going to be able to come launch time afford these consoles, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and how do you analyze this as well when so many people are working from home? How does that affect analysts? How does it affect as a company, as like someone like a Sony or an Xbox when they're trying to project where they're going to be with this pandemic? It throws everything into limbo. Everything into limbo. So that's something we got to be on the lookout as well, is what's going to happen. They all of a sudden don't have a crystal ball to look forward, into the future with.
well, this is an interesting thing too, Bad Bit. Like, let's say like these consoles get delayed.
Yeah.
What happens to PlayStation 4 then? And
Well, that's
like, I mean, like if, even if it's like, to say, a couple months, like I the one thing that's interesting with Microsoft, we know that they're going to be releasing new games, right?
Yep.
But they're doing that no console left behind, right?
Yeah.
So they can release new content for the Series X, or have things planned for the Series X, and still maybe release that content that was planned for the Series X without that console being released, because the intent was to have those games play on the other consoles that are currently out. Mm-hmm. So I think Microsoft in that regard might be maybe in a better place.
Yeah. And I think that is something to look to look at as well, is this next console generation. When we're saying it might get delayed, I don't think it is as doom and gloom as some people might project it onto themselves. Of like, what we're saying is, yeah, this is bad for sure, but the way that this console generation is transitioning into the next is super interesting, because it is like, for the first time in a very long time, it seems, we're not giving up generations of content for the latest and greatest. Those things are coming with us. And I think what you stated was on the money. With Xbox's way of launching the Series X, it gives them a tremendous amount of breathing room, saying, okay, listen, cool. Thank God we only had Halo Infinite and Fable. God fucking please give me Fable. Cool. That's great. We're going to hang on to that. But at the same exact time, all these games that are coming out in the next 2 years, guess what? We're going to even have a bigger lineup, because they're all going to be enhanced when the console comes out in 2021. So they might take a few hits, but I don't think it's going to be as devastating. Now, we know with the PlayStation 5, it's backwards compatible. Like, a lot of people are like, is it really though? Yes. Sony's official word is that it's backwards compatible with PlayStation 4 and PSVR. So you're going to probably see the same thing of like PS4 games dropping, and then when the PlayStation 5 comes out, you're going to see enhanced for PS5 on it, for sure. Absolutely.
It's interesting because then I wonder, is this kind of a window for Microsoft then? Like you said, like they can go back. Oh my God, you mentioned Fable. Let's hope, right?
God, listen, if there's a God who gave us this pandemic, they also have to be good enough to maybe give us Fable to kind of compensate for the losses here. Give me a goddamn, just a Fable reboot, or just go with Fable 4. Don't care. Just give me another Fable without Peter Montague.
Yeah, without Peter Molyneux. You're not a big Peter Molyneux fan? Come on, man.
Nah, he's on my jam. But like, if Playground's doing it again, I'm not supposed to be a PlayStation guy. I'm supposed to hate all this, but like, if Playground's doing it, God, I hope. I mean, that's what like everybody and their mother's saying. They're so talented. I'm so pumped. But yeah, like PlayStation 5 comes around, they're gonna probably have the same thing. So many games are gonna be enhanced.
Yeah, and so that's an interesting point, man. Like with the enhanced games, I thought that was going to happen anyway, but it's probably going to be more of a thing then, if these consoles do get delayed.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a thing that's going to happen if these consoles get delayed, for sure.
Interesting. Yeah.
The one thing that does maybe, and I think this is way more wishful thinking. This is why I wish we had Optimus Code on here right now. Is that if this is delayed by an extra year, let's just say it is holiday 2021, it's not like March 2021, how does that affect the power of these consoles? Does it? Could it? What small changes could be made? Let's just play, we're having fun today. Okay. Yeah. Usually I don't do this type of stuff on my show, but you know what? I'm doing it on yours. We're going to test it out here.
All right.
Let's just say,
go ahead, man.
PS5 is RDNA 1, right? Whatever the hell that means, we'll pretend that we know.
Well, it's not RDNA 1, so
let's just say. And the Xbox infrastructure is RDNA 2. Could Sony go behind the scenes and go, hey, AMD, what's up, man? I know you were gonna make us something pretty cool. Be even cooler if we can change the wording up in this contract here, pay a little bit more. You make our infrastructure to our PlayStation 5, RDNA 2 type of deal. Like, do we see those things, that type of changes happens for the teraflops, whatever we're gonna pretend we know what that is as well? Do you think that could happen?
I mean, I don't think they'll okay, so my scenario I would have painted would have been, well, like, for example, we both know they're both RDNA 2.
Yeah.
What I would have painted is like, can they up the GPU? Can they make a better or stronger GPU? Right. I don't think they could do that. I think though, because I think Optimus talked about this on Crossfire, if I'm not mistaken. Big shout out to our friend Optimus Good. By the way, big shout out to the 77 people that are watching right now. Please hit that like button if you haven't done so already.
Please.
But nice. I think what Optimus was saying, if they could get, and I'm paraphrasing here, not an exact quote, but I believe what I can't even talk today. What Optimus was saying was, if they could get and some kind of, if they could tweak something, maybe get a better CPU or something, or I forget what it was he said.
Like,
if they could do something, if they could do something that was also that also benefited them from a price perspective, because they also don't want to increase the price of whatever it is they're putting into this, right?
Yeah.
So maybe if they could get more SSD storage, right? I could see something like that, It
would be really interesting to see that. Again, like, for text in the chat, at this point, hardware has already started production. Probably has. It's probably in very, very pre-production, because usually the new consoles start getting made in around March or April. So like, it's probably at that phase where they have the parts and they just need to get assembled.
This is as I'm thinking about this, man. It's crazy. We never thought we'd be having this conversation, right?
Yeah.
And I think about when I came on the Trophy Room podcast.
Yeah.
Shameless plug.
Please, Trophy Room PlayStation podcast made by the players for the players each and every Thursday on Bad Bit Games on YouTube or iTunes, Google Play, and all that jazz. Yeah. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a great. You guys, seriously, all joking aside, you guys need to check this show out. Seriously, Badby, by the way, I am a big fan of yours, man. Seriously,
thank you, man.
You are a talented dude, man. I love your enthusiasm when you're podcasting, and you can just tell you genuinely have a love for this hobby that all of us love. So
that's what people keep telling me, and I'm just like, awesome. I don't see it because I hate it.
No, dude, you let me tell you something. It comes across very genuine. It really does, thank man. You. Yeah, and so you've heard it from other people. So I mean, so I'm not BSing
Mike Crawford in the chat, one of my great listeners there. He says, "Give him the scary voice. People need to earn the scary voice, okay?
Yeah,
just like they gotta earn my Texan voice.
I don't know if I want to hear the scary voice, but
I don't have enough water to make that happen.
Oh my goodness. Salty Scaby says the Spectre set. So yeah, I mean, we're speculating here. I mean, but I do think there could be tweaks. Obviously, there could be tweaks. Yeah. But let me get a final prediction here.
Okay.
Do you think a delay happens, or are we just going to see supply constraints at launch and people just need to get their butts into their local GameStop or whatever it is they choose to pre-order these consoles?
At the end of the day, it does depend on what's happening, where we are, where we are a week and a half from now, right? So like how many people quarantine, how many cases have broken out right now. Last time I checked, number could be higher. It's 2,800. Um Seeing if that number goes bigger, lower, how it affects the tri-state area type of deal. That's gonna play a big part. Um in my heart of hearts, I think it burped in the mic, my apologies, is hopefully by hopefully we see that, listen, in a perfect scenario, hopefully we see these numbers go down, right? Hopefully China's got it under control. They can start manufacturing them. Again, South Korea, everybody needs to take that model and run with it. If you feel sick, there really should be a way of like, let me get in a car, let me go to this, you know, La Quinta Inn, wherever, this Hilton that
La
is
Quinta
now.
Inn.
Yo, shout out to the La Quinta last year when I was at that PAX. That was the place to be. But like you stop there and it's now a service center for the CDC. They give you the test. It's literally a drive-through test, and if you're positive, you get you get quarantined, and if not, well then you drive off. You got that comfort of knowing you're not infected. That's great. That type of way of thinking is something we should be doing, but we need to see. Hopefully, I think what we're going to see is a restriction of products. I don't think, I think product has been halted. We got to see how much further it will be halted by. Again, because we just said usually they start in the spring. Guess what, gang? It is spring already. Usually starts in March and or April. We're getting to April, so we're going to be a little behind. It's more, I think, constraints on retail. But my other question for you is, do you think more people are going to start ordering their consoles on Amazon and like places like that? Because God, I don't want that case. I need my console. Like I like to go to a GameStop and get a console.
Well, I think we're kind of seeing that right now, right? Like we're seeing more people order through Amazon. I mean, I will say this, at least my prediction, right? I think that there's going to be heavy supply constraints. I think that these consoles are going to launch in December, not November. I think it's going to be December. I think there's going to be limited quantities, and I think as soon as the pre-orders go up, if you're a gamer, you need to go out and pre-order these things right away, because it's going to be very hard after launch to get these consoles. I don't see it any, and I wouldn't be surprised too, Badbit, if this thing gets delayed to like March 2021. Like that wouldn't surprise me.
I think that would be the latest, because if the one thing as a retailer, maybe Gaming Forte in the chat can confirm this for us, but like the one thing you want to do as a retailer is you want to get your product out there before Black Friday. So you have your initial rush on launch day, maybe you get another stock here or there, and then when Black Friday happens, that's where you really have the bulk of the product at, where everybody comes in, starts fighting people, and they forget about the pandemic. It just, Walmart becomes the Thunderdome. So
Walmart becomes a Thunderdome. Oh my God,
man. So that's why people will be coughing on each other to get out of the way, So yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking, is probably heavy constraints. But if they're launching it after Black Friday, well, forget the holidays. Then it's definitely spring, March, April. Think about when people are getting their tax returns back, what that's going to look like. Then they got all this money, honey. They could just throw it anywhere.
Look, console launches do work in March. I mean, it's not unprecedented.
Yeah. Switch happened.
Yeah,
Switch. I did not. I thought that was the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah.
Switch Lite.
So, a couple things for Nintendo Switch, Badbit.
Yeah.
Cartridge. When I heard about that, Nintendo's dumb. They're done. This is it. Oh, right. March release. Yeah. Nintendo's dumb. Nintendo looked at me and said, "Hold my beer."
I'm gonna make you look like a big old dummy. Yeah, same here.
Yeah,
and it's again, it's gonna be crazy, but. Yeah. Don't worry. Steadfast people.
I want to ask Gaming Forte in the live chat. Forte says first come, first serve. Forte, would they, if as a retailer, I'm sure you guys will probably know or be notified that they would be severe supply constraints of these next generation consoles. That being said, Forte, would they then not do pre-orders and just say, hey, this is when it releases, first come, first serve, or are you guys still going to do? I guess I would imagine they would still do pre-orders because that's, because they also want to.
Yeah, like for the Nintendo Switch, with GameStop, I know I had a couple people that were working there at the time, but they were saying that Nintendo Switch's demand was very light in the beginning because they didn't know if this thing was really going to sell well, and so they were still taking pre-orders, but it was very light amount of pre-orders.
Oh, wait a minute! You know what? Now that you mentioned that bad bit, I remember I had to go to my local GameStop, like at 6 a.m. and wait to. No, it wasn't 6 a.m. I was there probably. I think they opened at 10. I was there like at 8 o'clock. I had to stand in line because there were limited pre-order numbers. So my GameStop's like, we only have limited pre-order Switches available. So I stood in line just to pre-order to guarantee that I would get a Switch day and date.
Yeah, I always forget if I can curse or not, but like
you can.
Okay, cool. I remember just fucking walking in. I'm from Jersey, guys.
This is
my life. Yeah, I remember just fucking walking in and then just going, "You guys have Switch pre-orders?" And it's like, "Yeah, man, you're actually the first." And I'm like, I look at the clock. I'm like, "It's 12 in the afternoon. This isn't a good sign."
Oh, you lucked out, dude. I had to go like 2 hours early, man.
No, then I called my brother up. And I was like, "Hey, you, just come here." And he came out like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and he's just like, "Hey, what's up? Can I get one pre-ordered?" And sure, shit, I had it for him. But yeah, like pre-orders are really a way of showing the retailer what locations are going to be in demand for these consoles. How many? There are some areas where, my GameStop heavy Xbox concentrated, and not a lot of PS4 were sold there. Vice versa, there's areas where it's a lot of PS4 owners, not a lot of Xbox owners. So they take all of that into consideration. They throw it up into an algorithm. The computer tells us what to do. Essentially, from what I remember, my district manager at the time.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, this is you know what, we definitely gotta keep an eye on this. I mean, this is definitely gonna be interesting, as the pandemic plays out. By the way, big shout out to the 94 people watching right now. Hit that like button. And retweet the link if you haven't done so already. I'll go ahead and drop it in the chat again. But I want to move on to another topic here. Oh, by the way, and this is why I call them a brap rant, because sometimes I have topics, but I'll go off on little rants here and there, or rant about the topics that I have planned. But have you played Ori and the Will of the Wisp?
So I'm going to tell you something. You look at my Twitter at Mr. Badbit, you're going to see some amazing plays, whether it's on Call of Duty Warzone, whether it's Apex Legends, whether it's Fortnite. I will take you down. I don't care what platform you're on. All right, I'm out there getting people pregnant. That's what I'm doing out there on the shooting battle royale scene. When it comes to platformers, when it comes to anything 2D, I don't know what happened to me, man. I can't do it. I've been playing the first Ori. Yeah, again. Let me. I see a lot of people.
Bad, but you're a dude, bro.
I know, dude. I'm awful. I'm a shit guy. I've been telling this to people, but like. I'll play it, but I'm just not good at it. Like platformers in general, I am awful. I don't know what's up with my depth perception. But I'm not saying this as like, oh, I'm a PlayStation fan, so like I guess Ori is okay. No, Ori is stunning, beautiful. It is amazing. It's a great game. If you have an Xbox, it's on Game Pass. You could probably get it for $1. Go for it. Like it's fantastic. But I hear there's like some heavy technical issues with it so far, like on base Xboxes.
Yeah, I'm having some technical issues too on the PC. The game freezes. There's like an audio glitch, so it does break up the pacing. But I'm gonna say that. You know what's interesting? Like you mentioned, like you're not like I guess as good at like gaming or playing platformers.
Yeah,
which I find interesting because, dude, I saw that headshot on Apex Legends.
Yeah.
Dude, that takes some skill. So it's like you have reflexes, you have the eye hand coordination thing going for you, because I'm just really surprised to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's here's the thing. My co-host Kyle Stevenson,
Big shout out to Kyle.
Big shout out to Kyle. He's amazing, wonderful thing. He sucks at first person shooters. Like that's not what he's not competitive at all. It just messes with his anxiety. He doesn't want to deal with it. He is the best platform like 2D guy like I've seen ever in my life. It's out of this world how good he is at it. He just knows. So yeah.
Wow. Well, I just want to say this, and I'm not going to go too in depth about Ori and the Will of the Wisp. I put a couple hours into it so far. Look, it's better than the original, the first. The first was great.
Yeah.
This one's even better.
That's what I'm hearing, and that's awesome.
The combat, it's a beautiful looking game. Beautiful. The music is superb. Let me tell you something. And this is why this is going to tie into PlayStation 2. See, I know. See, I always have. It's funny how my rants always tie into like my original point. But anyhow, I just forgot what I was going to say. Oh, so I'm playing this game, right? And like for me as a gamer, when there's like good music at the beginning of a game, that's like automatically like sucks me in, right? Because there's something compelling about that. I don't know if that makes sense, but to me it is. There's something compelling about a good game soundtrack.
Yeah.
And
to me, that's what Ori does so great. Like Luke Lore, who's in the chat, XEP, if y'all don't know, he keeps banging the drum of like how this tells how this game succeeds so well at nonverbal storytelling.
Yes.
And it's through the atmospheric sounds, it's through the music. It's wonderful. Absolutely.
And so that is the piece. This is probably one of the best platforming games, action adventure games, this console generation. Ori, Will, and the Wisp. I kid you not. From a production standpoint, look, I understand the glitches. That stuff's not cool. I know that Moon Studios is asking people to rewrite the reviews or rescore the reviews because they've patched some of the glitches. Look, studios gotta figure this part out, right? As best as they can to release games that aren't buggy, because they are. I mean, I'm playing and the game will freeze, right?
Right.
Now it doesn't completely lock where I have to reboot, but it'll freeze. And anytime you have that, it breaks the pacing engagement of the game.
Not just the pacing, but the immersion.
Yes.
All of a sudden your brain's like, whoa, what the reality. Damn it.
And I get that, and I'm playing and I'm in the middle of dialogue and the music's playing and I get the audio glitch and all I hear is
press A to continue. Yeah, no, you don't. But you know what? I was reading my friend Trevor Starkey's tweet. I asked him about this because he's like, this game crashed on me 8 times while playing it, and I asked him, hey, like, do you think the high scores are warranted given all the performance issues? Honest question, not being a Sony fanboy. Listen, Days Gone deserved a lower score. Trevor Starkey said, hard to say. It seems like it's running better on X and PC, so maybe reviewers didn't encounter issues or gave them the benefit of the doubt that the day one patch or future patches would resolve the trouble, or maybe they favored the gameplay and story enough to overlook it. And I think that's where a lot of it comes from, is a lot of people are like, yeah, I get it, it crashes. But when I'm playing it, it's great. It's kind of like the Bethesda charm.
Oh, no.
Right?
You know what? I can't actually comment on Bethesda right now.
Oh, you can't?
Well, yeah.
I will then.
I can't say why. I can't say why.
Okay.
I'll tell you off air why, but I can't comment. I don't want to,
Yeah. You won't. I will. Don't worry about it. But like Skyrim, it's like, oh yeah, Skyrim will crash or eat a save, but like, dude, I'm fighting a dragon randomly while I'm walking through the woods. Like someone gave me a note with a bloody handprint on it. That's dope as all hell, and it opens this amazing story that's better than the story itself. Like, awesome. Like that's why you forgive those things. So like, Ori seems like it's so good that the moment to moment gameplay is so great and the story is so gripping and telling that you're forgetting about, oh yeah, I crashed on me again. Oh, it ate a save, because it's just like you're enjoying that game so great, or so much rather.
You know what's interesting is that Washington Post, my local newspaper, Washington Post, gave it a 7 out of 10. In part because of the bugs, and some people were kind of upset by that score. But I think this is where that subjective piece of, because I always say the reviews are part fact and part opinion, right?
Yeah, well, they're not that, like they are subjective, but it's coming through. Like these are weird. I give a lot of respect for a lot of reviewers out there that it's a subjective thing that you're trying to be objective about and you're trying to make an argument for. And usually people that are doing these reviews are really good at doing that.
Yeah. Well, the fact piece that I was mentioning was like when a game has like frame rate issues, right?
Yeah.
Or if it has bugs. I mean, like that's the fact piece of the review, right? This game has bugs. Or it crashed, right? Or it has screen tear, right? So I'm more speaking more like the technical aspects of a game, right? You know, so I think what's interesting with Ori is some of the reviews. I think and I see people getting upset. Oh, I can't believe they gave it a bad review. Why? It's a great. I think it really depends how particular that person is, or how that bug or that game freezing interrupted, like you said, their immersion. Like how much did that interruption bother that person, right?
Yeah. And I mean, you can even see this in other games like Jedi Fallen Order, which is like an amazing game, at least for me. Like as a Souls fan and a Star Wars fan, I'm just like, oh my god, this is home for me. But then there are like a ton of bugs with that game. Absolute a shitload of bugs, and the map's not that great. But like you see, people like GameSpot give it a 9 because hey, the experience, the story, the action were so good that yes, there's problems here, but the problems were did not outweigh the positives, or the positives outweighed the negatives so heavily that you're just like, yeah, they're there, but it's whatever. It's like, you know what? There's a moment in Bloodborne where the FPS chugs, but that's a game of the generation. That's just a fact.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my god, I need to get back to that game.
So good.
Yeah, that's that combat. Woo.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
I might go on run number 6 and beating that game.
How about those boss battles, man? Oh my, I tell you, I'll go on a rant about Bloodborne, but I will say this Ori, just to kind of wrap up Ori.
Yeah.
As I think about this game, I think about the production values, the music, that level of immersion. To me, that's what's missing. And this is, in my opinion, this is the Xbox's best game this console generation. Ori, Will and the Wisp, by far.
Yeah.
And it's a AA game, right?
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
I wouldn't even say AA. I would just like, I don't know, AA is such a weird term.
Well, I say that to only make an example of the fact that it also, I think, highlights the kind of experience that I wanted from the big AAA games that I haven't experienced this gen. And I'm transitioning to our next topic here, Badbit.
Go for it.
As I haven't had that kind of immersive experience with their AAA first party experiences on Xbox, the way I'm having with Ori, Will and the Wisp. And so when I'm playing this game, Ori, Will and the Wisp, I'm thinking, this is the kind of experience that I get with bigger AAA titles on the PlayStation.
Yep.
And that is what is lacking for the Xbox. Now, on that note, PlayStation.
Yeah.
What a way to wrap up the console generation, right?
Absolutely. It's fantastic. Like this month we got Neo. Well, let's start it off with let's be honest here, right? Dreams. Didn't sell that great, guys. Sucks. It's a beautiful game. Didn't sell that well. Hopefully long run it pays off. But we started with Dreams. Now we got Neo. Just came out, critical praise. We're gonna get Final Fantasy VII, which is a timed exclusive, but most people recognize that with the PlayStation brand.
Neo 2 is a timed exclusive, right? For
Neo 2 goes. I think Neo 1 is on PC, but yeah, it's a console exclusive. Yeah.
Okay, but is it going to make its way to Xbox at some point?
Probably not now.
Okay.
Now, even Tecmo Koei is just like, hey guys, if you wanted it, you should buy our games then. But who knows? Maybe
Woo!
Maybe Phil Spencer with a boatload of cash will hand that over. Maybe if like Neo 3 or the next iterations don't sell as well, that's why Yakuza's over at Game Pass right there. Not to talk shit about Game Pass or whatever, Yakuza's not doing as well as it used to be, so they're trying to expand that audience and bring it to Xbox. That's why they're doing that. Or it could be like the Final Fantasy situation where it's just like, hey guys, we just want your games on this platform. Here's a boatload of cash and another form of income. So yeah, you got Final Fantasy 7. Then you got The Last of Us Part 2, which we're already living through Last of Us Part 1.5 right now. So we're already gonna be ready when this game comes out. We're gonna be prepared. And then like you wrap it up with a nice, beautiful little bow there, and you have Ghost of Tsushima in June 26th. Gosh dang.
That's dude. Them be a lot of games, man.
Oh, it's amazing. I got a question for you though, Brat.
Go ahead, man.
Which one out of all these are you the most excited about, and why?
Man. Well, obviously, Final Fantasy VII Remake for me is big because, as I said earlier in the show, nostalgia is a hell of a drug.
Yeah, man.
And this game had such an impact on me when I was 20 years old. Crazy game released 23 years ago, but it did. I mean, it had such a profound impact on me as a gamer because I hadn't really experienced that kind of an emotional, immersive journey in gaming like that. So playing the demo, I was like, wow, they have done something special here. And look, the remake is a new game from the ground up. Yeah. They're taking the template of the original Final Fantasy VII, but they're bringing it to the modern day, or current console gen. Yeah. And I don't think that's easy to do. And from what I played,
so hard to do.
Oh, absolutely. What I played from the demo, the fighting mechanics, the music, the dialogue. I mean, it's a true love letter to the original, and it's probably my most anticipated game for PlayStation this year. And I say that with this, that I do go back and forth at times when I think about The Last of Us 2.
Yep.
But I would say that Final Fantasy VII is probably my most anticipated PlayStation game right now, man.
Yeah. And how dare I? Buck Roger, you're right. Persona 5 Royal is also coming at the end of this month as well. God, it's just unrelenting. Marvel's Iron Man. Like, if
Iron Man VR, yeah.
Yeah, this is like, there's so much still for us here.
Trials of Mana is coming out end of April.
Ooh. God. All right, let's knock it off with all these releases.
So, like, I'm at GameStop and I'm like, I see a commercial with Trials of Mana. And I'm like, whoa, I think, when was this announced? It's coming to PlayStation and Switch, but
of course,
I'm like, I'm just like, it's end of, I think it's April 26th or 27th, but I'm like, I can't get that game, you know. And then there's Persona 5 Royale, which is going to be on the PlayStation platform exclusively. I'm just like, yeah, I mean, what a way to end the generation.
Yeah, this is where like PlayStation's like, okay, it's no longer about selling consoles anymore. We got all that. Let's just make bank on this console now. It's kind of what it seems like. For me, the game that I'm most excited about, I'll break this down. I didn't get Neo 2 simply because Doom's coming out this week, and I'm like, I can't spend $120. And I know I'll probably buy Animal Crossing because I want to break up the demons of hell with a little bit of wholesome, anthropomorphic animals. But I take a look at Final Fantasy VII, and I've never played Final Fantasy VII. Like, never. And I could see the love, the dedication for that game that these devs have. It bleeds through everything that they do. It does feel 90s at the same exact time, feel modern. Like the UI looks like what I've seen screenshots of. A lot of people out there, say, Square's doing it again. They're charging us $60 for a game, and they're selling us for parts, in parts. That's true to a degree, but if this game is what they say it is, it's a 60-hour experience, the story alone, then hey, you know what? Break it up in 3 parts. I don't care. It goes to show like something like Resident Evil 2. Nobody complained about Resident Evil 2 being a remake, other than showing concerns that if it was going to be good or not. Guess what? Resident Evil 2 is one of the remake is one of the best horror games I've ever played as a gamer. Like, it's fantastic. So that argument, get out of there. I think it's stupid. I think it's silly, and I think the I saw one of my buddies, Bobby, the Nintendo guru, who I love and respect for a lot, but I'm gonna shit on him in a second. We'll complain about Square Enix putting out Final Fantasy VII for the 5th time, but we're gonna buy every single remaster from the Wii U era. Like, there's a give and a take here that a lot of people I don't think are seeing. So I'm excited for that, and I'm totally on board. I can't wait. I'm excited for The Last of Us Part 2. Insanely excited. I've pre-ordered the LE edition on Amazon, on Best Buy, on GameStop for safe precaution. Once I get it at Best Buy because it's day and date, then I'm canceling the other 2 pre-orders. But we all know Amazon, and especially Best Buy, likes to cancel that shit. So I'm being safe. I'm not losing that edition. But the game I'm most excited about is Ghost of Tsushima, because out of all the games we've kind of mentioned, this is, unless I'm a big dumb idiot, the first original game out of this whole lineup, other than like Dreams. Is like, this is a game that is from a Western studio, right? They're in Washington State. They're in charge, a Sony inspired company at this point, because now they are just international, and PlayStation is technically at this point an American company because the headquarters is based in California. But like, this Japanese rich history company has trusted this company to make a feudal Japan era game and make it historically accurate. Give players the opportunity of playing the game in Japanese or in English. And I think that's super dope that they did VO twice on this game to make sure it was up to snuff. Seeing how beautiful this game looks, I'm so on board. Again, we haven't seen much of the combat, but from what I've seen, it seems like it feels like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I'm dope. I'm on board. That's dope to me. It's something totally different that we don't get to see a lot of, and it's really, to me, the epitome of why I'm a PlayStation gamer. Is Sony will say, "Hey, you do Infamous. That's great. Do something different. Go for it. Shoot for the moon." And they're just like, okay, we want to make a Japanese game, a game that takes place in Japan. Go for it. We got a rich culture, bulk up on your history. And like, that's what makes PlayStation awesome for me, is that they're letting their creators take these risks, whether it's rebooting a franchise like God of War, whether it is saying to Naughty Dog, hey, you can make a survival horror game, which typically don't sell well. They're letting their teams like Guerrilla, who everybody needs to take I think there's an awesome no clip documentary on the history of Guerrilla Games and Horizon Zero Dawn. The way that company's structured is amazing, and they let them go from a shooter company all the way to an RPG game, and the RPG, to me, stands on its own and isn't we can dissect it as like, oh, just an Ubisoft RPG game, but like, do it so well where it's just like, yeah, and it's good and it plays really great. That's why I love PlayStation. So to me, seeing Ghost of Tsushima, that has me so on board. I want to know more. I want to see what this game's all about. I can't wait for June 20th.
Man, I tell you what, as you're talking about Ghost of Tsushima, man, and I'm looking at some screenshots of it right now. There's a game that came to mind when I saw the more recent trailer when they announced the release date, June 26th. I thought to myself, I want another Tenchu. Like, when can we get another Tenchu? Like, seriously,
Yeah.
like, I love the Tenchu series.
Mhm.
You know, but I'll tell you what, man. Oh, let me ask you something, Babbitt. Are you going to play in Japanese or English? Let me ask you that.
Listen, I think I'll probably do it in both, but first in not Japanese, sorry, English, so I get the story, and then when I'm playing it again, I'll play it in Japanese for sure.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I'm going to do the same. And, you know, I'll say this, that, you know, you bring up a great point that this is a new experience, new game, new IP compared to the other offerings that are going to be coming out exclusive to the PlayStation. You know, I kind of want to go back to The Last of Us 2. You know, we talked about this on Crossfire, the guy coming out and talking about Naughty Dog. And my friend, shots have been fired.
Yeah, man.
Wrestling promos have been cut. Like, and I think somebody came out from Naughty Dog, and I'm not going to say the person's name, but I'm going to read the tweet.
Sure.
Dude, you know what the fuck? I'm sorry. Dude, you know what? Fuck it. I'm doing this. Jen tweeted that because you took shots at her team when you smugly tweeted that we don't have producers. And what the fuck are you doing sharing that Gabby tweet out of context? I know you're thirsty, but this is low.
Yeah, and this comes out with the Kotaku article talking about crunch culture, and one of the developers or former developers, whatever, he put it out there in public. I'll say his name, Jonathan Cooper, put out a long, lengthy tweet thread about not so much his experience, but the culture that surrounds Naughty Dog in crunch. And he talked about how, in particular, how he didn't face crunch all too often, but like the animators and the story team, man, they're suffering from crunch big time. And he talked about how the senior staff is so inept over there at Naughty Dog. The only reason why they're so successful is Sony just throws a blank check at them wherever they need be.
He also, I'm sorry to interrupt you a bit, but to your point about this particular individual in crunch, he did go out and screen capture and tweet someone who had been hospitalized, right?
Yeah.
Where he said because of crunch or whatever, and then she actually clarified why she was really hospitalized. And it had something to do with something more female related, personal. Yeah. I'll leave it at that. And I think you saw that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, perfect. So
like, sorry, continue.
No, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
So yeah, like it's, we're also seeing like Neil Druckmann going, I'm proud of they're doing a fantastic job. We've seen the head of all the animators at Naughty Dog going like, yeah, well, I'm proud of the team and what we're doing here at Naughty Dog. I'm proud of this. I want you guys, can't wait for you guys to play this in May. And then we see this other developer going like, dude, why make such an ambiguous tweet like this? Where like you're throwing, it's kind of like, let me throw it back to the only way I know how. Office season 5, when Michael Scott makes his own paper company to kind of, go back at Dunder Mifflin, right? Because they wronged him so many ways.
Did he have like an office, like a big table? It was just him and like one other person. Yeah.
Yep. It was a pool table. Yeah. Him, BJ Novak and Pam. And like he wins at the end. He shows that like he's able to make this company bleed. And when he joins back with the company, everybody's at odds with Michael. Why? Because we get what you're trying to do here, but you don't get it that you hurt us in the process, right? Like you hurt my sales, you hurt my bottom line, you hurt our morale here. And that tweet, what he did, I don't think intentionally, was like there's a problem here with the upper management, with the senior level staff, with Coach Cruncher in general. And a lot of the devs are kind of, or some of the devs, not even gonna say a lot of them, are coming back at him going, whoa, we get what you're trying to do here, but to kind of throw this amount of shade, it feels directed towards us, where it should be noted that and to me, what I got out of the story is it's not just the bad companies, right? Like, and when I mean bad companies, I mean games that perform poorly. I should reword that. Studios of which games perform poorly, like BioWare's Anthem. It's also games that make these tour de force games like The Last of Us Part 2 suffer from this crunch culture. The problem is, and you cut me off whenever, is getting the modern person on board, the average person on board with this idea that is so ambiguous of what is crunch culture. How much overtime are you working?
Yeah.
Like, get people to sympathize with this cause, because I've seen a lot of people, like we were talking about it, or Mooch was talking about it on Crossfire, going, I've worked a lot of hours. I'm here. I'm whatever. I made bank. It's fine.
I was working this weekend. I mean, but there, I will say this, and people, and I've had people say, "Oh, you're just, you're just supporting the mistreatment of humans, Enrique." And I'm like, nah, that's not what I'm saying. Like, I recognize there's crunch, but there's levels of crunch, right? Like, there's excess when it starts impacting people's emotional well-being, their health. That is crossing the line, right?
Yeah.
That is when it's having a profound negative impact.
When your country, or when your company's like, you could go home when you're in a goddamn body bag. You're staying here and you're gonna make this cape fly around. Like, that's bad.
Yeah.
You know?
I like that voice, by the way.
Thank you. That's my money grabbing voice.
Oh my God. But yeah, it's yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, but I think like the idea of crunch, we hear the word crunch, it's too broad of a word, right?
Right.
Well, what does that mean? And not to criticize Jason's article, I thought it was well done. Yeah. But there's some things there that don't really dive into the why, right? Or what are we defining crunch? Are we talking about, because there's crunch anywhere you go, right? Yeah. People do work overtime. People do. I shared a story on Crossfire. I was part of an M&A, and the accounting group was working 16, 17-hour days, right? They needed to do this in order to ensure that this merger acquisition went through, because it was very important to them. It was very important to the company. But they had bought it. They'd agreed to it, right?
Yep.
And there are generational differences in the workplace. Like, I'm seeing this right now where, how do we have individuals who don't want to work 50 hours a week, right?
Yep.
They want to dictate, I want to work 40 hours. Well, if you want to be an auditor, you want Big Four experience, and busy season, you are going to travel. You are going to work more than 40 hours. And if you don't want that, well, this isn't the right opportunity for you.
Yeah. I'm in PR, and the one thing when I just graduated recently, can't wait to get into that workforce, man. But like, the one thing that one of my professors said is, like, if you think this is a 9-to-5 job, please drop this major right now. Do something else. Because this is a 60, 70 hour, like, this is like, go home at 9 o'clock at night if you want to succeed and make and do well and make it big. Like, that's what it's gonna take. Whether that is in like PR, where it's travel PR, and travel PR is free. It sounds great, but you're doing a lot of traveling, right? You're doing a lot of overtime that way. The company that I work for right now, a lot of people, they see the corporate structure of like, oh man, like, oh, they get me free lunch on Thursdays. Well, they give you free lunch on Thursdays so that you sit at your desk with your food, you eat while you work. Like, that's what a lot of the corporate structure is that they want you there working all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a different type of work, I can't lift shit with my hands at all. I get hernias incredibly easy. I have one right now. It's annoying as all hell. So, like, I get it. It's not as tumultuous as a construction job, but it's also just as straining, just in a different perspective, which is mental strain.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Optimus Cone mentioned that the mental strain of this work is harder than the physical strain he's endured. But I didn't know this about it, but he said he spent some time in construction doing manual labor. So, but just fascinating insight. I mean, I'm not, condoning the mistreatment of employees, but I think it's important to get maybe a better idea or definition. Maybe this should be labeled as instead of crunch, excessive crunch, or something to that effect.
It also, it's something that, like, I like what you were kind of saying before, is like, look, regulations state over 40 hours, that's overtime. There's compensation that ought to be had there, right? This means that if this is such a bad thing within multiple industries, there does need to be some type of self-regulation or government regulation coming in and saying, whoa, 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 whoa. No one and their mother should be working 100-hour weeks. That's crazy talk, right? Like, or excessive crunch. Like, it needs to be defined and it then needs to be regulated. Again, whether it's self-governance like we see with the ESA, or sorry, the ESRB, or like or something like government coming down and going, hey, whoa, 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 one should be sleeping at their desks. That's a little bonkers, nuts. That's the conversations that I think multiple industries need to have, and it's not just the gaming one. That's why a lot of people don't see or feel sympathy, because, well, it's happening to me, so why the hell should you get time off and I don't get time off? Well, the conversation is we both should be getting time off, and Frank with the creepy voice, he's really screwing us over. Fuck Frank.
Frank with the creepy voice. So Bad Bit, real quick, because I want to transition to kind of the last part of this topic with PlayStation. Herman Hulse just recently did a Q&A, which I thought was very fascinating, give some insight into PlayStation. Earlier we talked about PlayStation 4 ending this generation on a very high note, but we haven't heard much about PlayStation 5, right? We know it's a thing. We know it's happening behind the scenes. Sony's been very tight-lipped about it. I know it's happening based on conversations I've had with some industry folks that have been on BRAP before. One in particular is actually making a launch game for PS5.
It's me, guys.
Yeah, it's a Bad Bit. He's doing a platforming game, even though he doesn't like platformers.
Knack 3's coming. Don't you worry about it.
My God. So, going back to kind of Herman Hulse and his Q&A, there's one thing that really kind of stood out to me. And I kind of tie this into the PlayStation 5 because there's all this talk about how the industry is moving from platform to kind of a more ecosystem, or from platform to ecosystems, right? And we're seeing that. I don't care. I see people saying, "Oh, it's always about hardware." I think it's just more than just hardware. It's going to be more platform specific. We'll see exclusives, platform related exclusives, right? But he also said, we're very committed to dedicated hardware as we were before. We're going to continue to do that, and we're very committed to quality exclusives and to strong narrative-driven single-player games. At the same time, we're going to be very open to experimentation, to new ideas, just trying things out to see what works. I think that's also very much part of the DNA of Worldwide Studios. So, on that note, I think partly reason we haven't heard from Sony, and Optimus Code has said this on numerous occasions on BRAP, that Sony is tailoring trying to get the message right, so when they do release information on the PlayStation 5. Because look, we saw some of what I thought was just dumb anger over Horizon Zero Dawn going to PC. Get used to that. It's going to happen more often in the future with PlayStation.
I started crying.
You started crying?
How can Sony do this?
Oh my gosh!
What a loser! What a dumb idiot that guy was.
Yeah, I mean, look, and I'm not going to get down that rabbit hole, but that's going. So when you hear him say things like this, what he's saying is, guys, things are changing. He's saying we're going to experiment because Sony knows the reaction of the base. We've seen it. Some of those hardcore who are upset over Horizon Zero Dawn going to PC. And what he's saying about open to experimentation, guys, what he's that's a way of giving them kind of an out, right?
Yeah.
It's easier to say, hey, we're going to try something versus we're going to do something that you don't like.
He's doing both. So, like, first and foremost, I love this interview, and one of the reasons is is it Stephanie Stillwood or Studstill, the lead over at Santa Monica that left. He gave her a huge shout out, going, "Hey, thank you for all of her work. She's amazing. Can't wait to see what Yumi's doing over there and how she leads the team. She has 19 years of experience," kind of just laying out the foundation of, like, yes, someone big left, but someone as equal size is filling that position. I think that's really cool, and I don't think enough people taking that into consideration, or that aspect in. The other thing when we're talking about PC games or PS4 games coming to PC, I see a lot of Xbox fans going, "So PlayStation, what's going on with you, man? PlayStation guys who said that this was going to somehow devalue our platform. Well, now is it suddenly devaluing yours?" And hey, listen, that is a take. That is a console fanboy mentality, but I understand where it comes from, because when you've been getting crapped on this what feels like entire generation, you do feel like, hey, no, that is a point. And it is valid to an extent of like, does this devalue the PlayStation platform? Well, PlayStation looks at that. I bet they were wondering that to themselves. First and foremost, PlayStation used to run, I believe it was called SCIE, Sony Computer Interactive Entertainment, and or Interactive Computer, whatever, one of the two. Dyslexia is kicking in, where they were making PC games.
Many people, I think a lot of people don't remember this either, and they're actually publishing mobile games right now. I don't think people realize that either.
Yep. Ready Set Heroes is a PlayStation 4 game that's also on the Epic Game Store.
Woo!
I always say Fahrenheit, but what game I'm probably talking about. That's a PlayStation game also coming. Detroit Become Human, that is a PlayStation game. Again, Quantic Dreams needed PlayStation's permission to put those games on PC. And what I really think is Sony took a seat, watched how those games performed, because probably they were getting some type of reimbursement for those games. So they were probably tracking how these games are doing and going, okay, this doesn't hurt us whatsoever. Let's do this. And how do we word it? Well, we'll just tell everybody it's a goddamn test, so nobody loses their mind. No one flips a desk, breaks their PS4, and starts crying and puts it on Twitter because that's a smart idea. Let's just say it's a test. Say we're just testing the waters, while in the background, we'll start making some things. Because they did see what Microsoft's doing. It is working. It's not devaluing the Xbox platform, because now we're starting to say Xbox is a platform. Sony is now saying, hey, you know what? This next generation going forward, it's actually not going to be about boxes. It's going to be where the platform is, where we are beyond the boxes. The boxes are going to be very important for the first 5 years, but once we get further out, less and less so. So for me, as a Horizon fan, as a player of PlayStation, but most of all, a gamer first, more people get to play my game of 2017. Zelda was a very, very close second, but I love Horizon Zero Dawn because of Horizon Zero Dawn. The Trophy Room of PlayStation podcast, of which I'm a host of, which you should subscribe to, exists. And so I have a lot of love for that game. So much love that I want to see other people play and enjoy that game. And I think the true question now is, what role do exclusives play? That's it. That's my rant.
Well, I mean, the role, exclusives are always going to play an important role. I mean, if it's not hardware exclusive, it's going to be ecosystem exclusive, right? Like similar to what we see with Netflix, where if you want to watch The Ozarks, you have to subscribe to Netflix. If you want to watch, Narcos Mexico, you have to subscribe to Netflix, right?
Yeah.
If you want to watch, the Last of Us television show on HBO, you have to subscribe to HBO.
In the future, yeah.
In the future. So, I mean, like these things are going to still play an important role, but it's interesting. They're pivoting here.
Yeah.
His thing of trying new things, that's very telling that Sony is going to, they're saying, hey guys, to, appease the hardcore base, the rabid base is going to get upset. Which they shouldn't get upset, because at the end
there were actually 5 people. It's actually just 5 people.
Yeah, those 5 people. What they're saying is they're reaffirming to their base, hey, we are still dedicated to hardware, guys. Like, don't worry, we're still going to give you those strong narrative-driven single-player games that you guys love, but at the same time, we're going to be trying new things that are different. And we're going to see what works. We're not making a commitment, although I tell you, I think that commitment's already happened. Behind the scenes,
I mean,
they're pivoting.
Behind the scenes, Last of Us, Last of Us Part 2. They're looking for people that have experience coding for, I believe, Intel. And that's telling that, oh yeah, okay, they're going. Last of Us 2 is going to come to PC one day because PlayStations are all AMD based. So it's happening, folks. It's happening.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think they're going to have more of a presence on PC in the next couple of years, whether that's in the form of some kind of storefront or expansion of PlayStation Now. I mean, but they're going to branch out. I mean, these companies. Look, Sony's been doing this for 25 years, and I keep telling people it's funny when I hear people say, "Oh, they haven't showed anything for PlayStation 5. We don't know what games they have showing." Guys, Sony has a lot of equity built in with gamers, because they have consistently proven over 25 years that they can deliver compelling content, game of the year winning content, genre defining content. They're not new to this rodeo show, right?
Yeah, I mean, other than a brief relapse that is the PlayStation 3, they what they have, a lot of people are like, just wait till you see all them Xbox games. 15 and a half studios. Let's do it. They're going to make banger after banger after, what's that, Overgrown? But like, or is it Overgrown? Whatever that Obsidian game looks like, it's trash. Anyway, not to throw shade at Microsoft. I'm just teasing. A lot of people see that and I'm like, okay, prove it to me. And the one thing that Sony doesn't have to do that Microsoft has to do, and it's a question that a lot of us who are critics have to say to Microsoft is, okay, it's cool that you bought all these studios. Ninja Theory is fantastic. Obsidian's probably the best get that you got. Compulsion confuses me, but now prove it with the IP, because you haven't proved it much. You have some examples of some really great games like Ori, like Cuphead, but then you got the games that just don't perform that well, that we see patches out a year and a half later fixing things. Right, I'm looking at you, State of Decay. So like, Crackdown, where's your patch, bro? So the one thing Sony doesn't have to do, enough shade being tossed, is prove that these studios know what they're doing. Sony has companies that have been ingrained in gamers' minds. Insomniac, Naughty Dog, they've been there for like 20, 30 plus years at this point. We're seeing these big studios, Santa Monica as well, 20-year-old studio now. There's such a strong culture built within each of these companies that people can trust the quality that's coming out of them right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said when you have that track record. And the same applies to Nintendo. I mean, Nintendo has a tremendous track record, and so we have we know. And look, nothing's guaranteed, but we do have some sense of what to potentially expect from Sony with the PlayStation 5. So, but I'm like you, definitely looking forward to hearing more about the PlayStation 5. I get the sense we'll probably hear more about it shortly.
Yeah.
But some of the messaging that I'm seeing, and I really go back to what Herman was saying about, at the same time, we're going to be very open about experimentation to new ideas. Again, to me, that is just signaling the pivoting or the transition that they're doing. And they're going to do new things. And we're seeing it already. I mean, you look at PlayStation Now, it's priced at $60 a year. It's got 800 plus games.
It's good, too. Like, a real talk, I played Doom streaming on it, and I was impressed. It's getting there. It's not as good as Game Pass, but it gets there.
Yeah, no, it's definitely getting there. I mean, it's got great offerings. It just got Control, which I just downloaded again.
Such a great game.
Yeah, so I mean, they're shaking things up, but they're still incorporating some of the things that have made them successful. So, maybe for those people who are those rabid fans, maybe they find some comfort in that. As crazy as that is to say, I guess. But
Hazard Man in the chat. Don't crap on Romance Saga or Romancing Saga, okay? People get off in different ways.
Oh my goodness.
No judgments. No judgments here, all right?
Yeah. So it's gonna be a fun next new console generation for sure. I think.
Oh yeah.
Sony's in a great position. I think Microsoft's in a very good position too, with you know Game Pass, and then adding these 15 new studios. I'm excited to see what kind of content these studios are going to deliver for the Xbox platform. So that gets me excited as a gamer.
And again, like, I'm a PlayStation fan. Okay, so like, again, I'm sorry, Hazard. I'm gonna call you out. When he said, when I see comments like, and 800 old games that Sony gamers say that they don't play, that's not true. That's a stupid statement, and you're look dumb when you say it. Because to me, I take a look at Xbox right now. I'm a Sony guy. There is no argument that they are killing it in a different way. Like, Game Pass is freaking awesome. That's a value that anybody can get behind. It's an amazing value. It's awesome. It's offering 100 plus of amazing games, old and new, from the OG Xbox, of which I love. Brute Force, let's bring it back. All right. Yeah, to older titles like the 360, and then up-resing them naturally through the hardware. That's fantastic. That's awesome. That's incredible. That's something we need to champion. Seeing PlayStation do the same with PlayStation Now is awesome as well. The service just needs to get better. The fact is, we're all in these camps, and we got to knock it off with dumb comments like that, because to me, we need to get back to the basics of, like, listen, again, Xbox, whoop, almost broke my mic because I'm getting passionate.
Yeah.
Microsoft is not calling me up when I get the coronavirus. They don't give a shit. Hazard Man, I'm telling you, if you get it, Phil Spencer's not going to call you up on the phone. Stop with the shields and the swords fighting for companies that will not care about you at the end of the day. They won't. I run a PlayStation podcast because I'm very knowledgeable on PlayStation, but I don't have this false knowledge that, when I'm sick, Shu's going to call me up on the phone. He's not. He doesn't care. He doesn't know who I am. He just cares of how they're getting money from me. The conversation is, who is benefiting my bottom line? This is when I'm looking at a console. We're talking about, okay, I'm buying an Xbox right now. Why? Because of Game Pass, because it's freaking phenomenal. Yes, there are some things that aren't the best with it, but it's getting better. Why am I buying a PlayStation? Well, because those exclusives look and play amazingly. That's the conversation we need to have. We got to stop. The one thing that I hate to see the fanboy mentality out there is that, hey, someone said something mean, so I'm going to direct that someone saying something mean to a whole entire audience. That's not true. I play my Xbox One as much as my PlayStation. I think it's a fantastic console. I play most of my multiplayer games on my Xbox because my friends are there that play multiplayer games. So I'm there. I got a Series 2 controller. What we gotta stop doing is building these false narratives that, like, that Xbox sucks just because they didn't have the best generation when it came to first party. And we got to stop throwing out the bogus things that don't have to do with anything. That's what I'm all about. When I'm talking about games and why I'm passionate about games is because they're offering me an escape from real life. Halo is one of my favorite games of all freaking time. It means the most to me. Destiny 2, I love that game so very much because when I lost my grandpa, that was the game that I sunk my hours into, and it helped me cope with the loss of my grandpa.
Yeah.
That's what video games are all about. That's what we need to get back to, instead of having to, like, this console sucks, that console sucks, this sucks. No, gaming is awesome, and there are strengths and weaknesses to both platforms.
Absolutely. Well said, dude. Well said. By the way, well said, man. Thank you, man. Yeah. And thank you for sharing that story, because gaming has, in my life, been an escape from times where I've gone through some hardships, and it isn't any different than some people who, might pick up a hobby to keep themselves attracted.
Also, Hazard Man, I'm not throwing generalizations. When you say dumb crap like, Sony dudes only care about, that's a generalization.
That is a generalization.
I'm sorry if I made you feel bad, but you put a target on your back. I had to. Sorry. My bad.
Yeah, I mean
I
that
love
is.
you. Don't
I
worry
mean,
about it.
like when I see this argument. Sony gamers said this, Xbox gamers said that.
It's so
You know,
stupid. It's like it's such a he said, she said
yeah,
bullshit.
that's console war stuff, and that's a very small. That's a very, in the grand scheme of things, it's a very small group of people, and it is. And if you're saying it's Sony people, that's a generalization. Because I game on the PlayStation, I also game on Xbox, I game on PC.
Yeah.
Well, I don't game on the Xbox console. I game on the within
I
the
bought
Xbox
an
ecosystem.
I'm deflecting. I bought an Xbox One on launch. I bought a PlayStation 4 at launch. I play on PC, play on mobile. I love it all.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I don't care about teraflops. I just want to play awesome games. Give me experiences I've never had before, you know?
Yeah, it is a generalization. And Hazardman says, let's keep it 100. I mean, that whole let's keep it 100 thing is ridiculous. I mean, that's a keep it 100 is an argument that's based on nothing, you know, rather just that it's an argument based just to bust people's chops more than anything
exactly.
else.
It's stupid.
You know?
Again, just like Michelle said, when they go low, we go high. It just doesn't matter. You know,
it doesn't matter.
It's just whatever. Yeah. I started, oddly enough, my gaming history is so entrenched with Microsoft. That is, you know, Halo 1, buying that on launch, being one of the first to experience Xbox Live. My first gamer tag was Warlike Coffee because of the random generator and my brother clicking enter when he shouldn't have.
So here's I'm sorry, I don't want to. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt here, bad bit. But Hazardman saying same difference. They belong to Sony camp. This idea of camp, this idea of tribalism, we got to stop it. Like, there's this is a Bloods versus Crips. That mentality, that mentality is such a it's just a it. This is why we as a community get labeled as antisocial. Geeks, you know. I mean, seriously, this is why there's still a stigma associated to the gaming community as far as it's come, because we see this all the time with something, you know. Enrique is one of the biggest fanboys. How about you spell it's not wanna, it's one of. So if you're gonna you know try to insinuate that I'm a fanboy, at least get the context of the anyhow. This is the problem with fanboyism. It rots the brain, you know, and so it's just one of those things that it's an unfortunate part of the community, and it's a reason why we get labeled, and there's a stigmatism still with the gaming community. As much as it's grown in the 40 years that I've been doing this, where it's more socially accepted, there's still a stigmatism. So autocorrect my ass, Hazardman. Come on, dude.
Come on, man. You messed up.
Yeah, Hazardman. Just take the L. Just put the asterisk on it. Take the L.
It's okay. I got dyslexia too, dude. Don't worry about it. But that's the thing. It's just like what we ought to get back to, and that's why we're having like awesome conversations for the most part today. Is how does this affect the gaming world as a whole? You know, I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to tell you that like I don't have a bias. I run a PlayStation podcast. Of course I do. But I want you to know that going in. You know, I'm not preaching of like, this is my opinion. You must fall in line with it. This is my opinion. Let's have a talk. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Because again, I've been an Xbox fan since the OG Xbox. My PlayStation story is I literally, when I used to work at GameStop, bought a PS3 off of a stoner for $80. Bought the wires, bought the controller, bought Uncharted just for the heck of it, and then discovered, wow, being a fanboy is literally the dumbest thing in the world because there's awesomeness everywhere. You know?
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, I never. And look, I used to console war like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it really, it's not a good place to be in. When I opened myself up to other platforms, I enjoyed gaming on a completely different level. Yeah. And I would, if you can, I would encourage, if you have the means to do it, own multiple platforms. Like it's a great experience to own multiple platforms. I mean,
and if you don't have that thing, if you own an Xbox, you don't own a PlayStation, love that ecosystem, enjoy that ecosystem. You don't have to shit on other people. You don't have to be like, lob grenade. I used to be that person. Back when I was like 16 years old, I look back at myself. I'm like, I was the dumbest person alive for thinking half the things I've said. You know, like there are plenty of times we could go through the annals of history where Microsoft was the ones that didn't want to do crossplay. right? Back in the 360 era, and back when online was free on PlayStation, right? We've seen them do total 180s. Now you have to pay for PlayStation Online. Now Xbox is all about crossplay. And guess what? Both of those things are fantastic. Both of those things are great. Seeing Xbox championing cross-platform progression, cross-platform play, that's awesome. That's what gaming is all about. Yeah, there is no reason why I'm playing Call of Duty on my PlayStation and I shouldn't be playing with my Xbox friend. That's awesome. And when Sony was just like, we're in it for the kids.
Yeah,
so stupid.
That was
it was
dumb.
A dumb argument. We ripped into them then, and I'll continue to rip into them now. But times change. Things happen. Quotes don't last forever. But unfortunately, they stain. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we're gonna. Well said, Bad Bit. By the way, man, thank you. And no on that note, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up this Brap podcast, this Brap rant. Remember, Brap is a place where we celebrate gaming. Woo! Yeah. And on that note, we are out. But Mr. Bad Bit, thank you again, sir. Please let everyone know where can they find you.
Yeah. So again, Hazard Man, I love you. Don't worry about it. I love you. We could be friends. We'll shake hands afterwards. I get it. Maybe I mistook it and I misread it. Don't worry. We come together. We shake hands. Add me on Xbox. It's Senior Bad Bit without the Enya. We'll play Call of Duty together. So you can find me over at Bad Bit Games, where we talk about all games, news, and reviews. You can find me also over on the Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast made by the players for the players, where each and every Thursday, me and my best friend Kyle sit down, talk about the latest and greatest that surrounds the PlayStation ecosystem. And you can find me at Mr. Badbit, MR Badbit on Twitter, where I sometimes post really cool videos of me getting headshots from guys that are flying helicopters in Call of Duty, and makes cool Michael Bay explosions. And that's bad news. But like, other than that, it's all cool. So Mr. Badbit on Twitter. There you go.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, guys, I want to give a big thank you to everyone in the live chat. Hazard Man, always a pleasure, man. Always appreciate you in the live chat. Even it's okay to disagree. It's okay. You know, but no, seriously, thank you to everyone in the live chat for coming by, hanging out with us. Hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell notification if you haven't done so already. Please check out my man, Mr. Bad Bit Games, and the Trophy Room podcast. Great podcast, really is. Very, very insightful. Yeah, very insightful. It's not fanboy stuff. It's, you know, intelligent gaming conversation, and very passionate as well. So, on that note, guys, please also now check out the Iron Lords podcast. Hope we warmed you guys up for the ILP. They're actually going live right now. So head over there, support the Iron Lords podcast as they go live, and we'll catch you next time. And guys, please stay safe. If you don't have to go out, don't do it. Yeah, wash your hands. Wash your hands. Play some video games.
What's wrong with it?
Yeah, exactly.
Moody, I love you, buddy.
Yeah. So on that note, guys, we are out. Thank you again. Have a great Sunday. Peace.